"Your longing will be answered, child," the old woman said, "but not in the way you expect." In that instant, a sharp pain tore through Chinwe's body. She collapsed, feeling her hands twist into paws, her skin bristle with spotted fur, and her teeth sharpen into fangs. Long ago, in a quiet, close-knit African village called Ilewuro, there lived a young woman named Chinwe. Although her family and neighbors could be kind, Chinwe always felt misunderstood. Unlike other girls who followed the village customs without question, Chinwe loved to explore new ideas, dream of places beyond the winding footpaths, and dress in ways that stood out from the norm. Chinwe's parents, Mama Aderonk and Baba Adigok, valued tradition above all else. Their village lifestyle was simple. People rose at dawn to tend their farms and goats, children played games near the river, and evenings were spent sharing stories around a flickering lantern. But Chinwe's uniqueness often made her an outsider. While other villagers laughed and gossiped, Chinwe would wander alone, sketching pictures of distant lands or humming songs she picked up from traveling traders. This behavior caused her parents to worry. They feared that her unconventional ways would draw negative attention to their family. Instead of asking her about her dreams, Mama Aderonk and Baba Adigok scolded Chinwe. "Behave like a proper daughter," they would say, "or the spirits will frown upon you." Hearing these words day after day made Chinwe feel as though she had no place in her own home. One dusk, while the sun dipped below the thatched roofs, Chinwe slipped away to sit beneath the village's oldest baobab tree. This tree was rumored to be inhabited by ancient spirits, some benevolent, some mysterious. As she wept softly, lamenting her loneliness, an elderly woman emerged from the shadows. Her voice was gentle yet commanding. "Child," the woman asked, "why are you so sad?" Chinwe poured her heart out, speaking of her isolation, the whispers behind her back, and her yearning to be understood. The woman listened with sympathetic eyes. After a long moment, she touched Chinwe's shoulder. "Your longing will be answered," she said, "but not in the way you expect." In that instant, a sharp pain tore through Chinwe's body. She collapsed, feeling her hands twist into paws, her skin bristle with spotted fur, and her teeth sharpen into fangs. When Chinwe opened her eyes again, she saw the world in new, heightened detail. She realized she had been transformed into a leopard. In panic, Chinwe sprinted through the narrow village paths. People screamed and ran at the sight of a wild leopard. Fearing for her life, she took refuge behind huts, in abandoned barns, and amid tall grasses by the river. At first, every noise, drumming at night, the bleating of goats, the distant chatter of neighbors, made her flinch. Yet gradually, Chinwe discovered that underneath the leopard-spotted coat, she still possessed a human heart. She felt the same compassion, the same longing for acceptance, as before. Despite her fearsome new form, Chinwe would quietly leave scraps of food near hungry children when the adults weren't watching. She avoided harming anyone, prowling the village outskirts beneath moonlit skies. As word spread of a leopard roaming Ilewuro, Mama Aderonk and Baba Adigok grew frantic. They searched every corner, calling out for Chinwe, unaware that their missing daughter was the very creature they feared. People formed groups to stand guard at night, holding spears and torches, determined to chase away or capture the leopard. The more villagers gossiped, the more Mama Aderonk and Baba Adigok realized how little they knew about Chinwe's inner world. They regretted not listening to her gentle heart before it was too late. Stories circulated about an elder named Baba Yetunde, said to possess knowledge of ancient spells and remedies. If anyone could break a curse in Ilewuro, it would be him. Hoping to regain her true self, Chinwe prowled the outskirts of the elders' compound, a modest cluster of mud huts behind a thick grove of palm trees. An oil lamp burned in the darkness, lighting the way to Baba Yetunde's home. Summoning her courage, Chinwe approached. She scratched timidly at his door with her paw, uncertain if the wise man would understand her situation or if he would cower in fear. When Baba Yetunde stepped out, his lined face showed no surprise, only deep understanding. He calmly led the leopard inside, lighting a small fire. The scent of herbs and burning incense filled the air. Placing a gentle hand on Chinwe's spotted head, he chanted in a voice that seemed to resonate with the very spirits of the land. Meanwhile, Mama Adarong and Baba Adigok arrived in haste, guided by the villagers' shouts of a leopard sighting near Baba Yetunde's home. Some people came armed with sticks, ready to protect themselves. But the wise elder emerged from his hut, raising his hand to silence the commotion. In the glow of the flickering fire, Chinwe's leopard form began to change. Her fur receded, her paws reshaped into human hands. Gasping, she found herself once again in her original body, exhausted and trembling, but free of the curse at last. Her parents, seeing her, broke down in tears of relief. They rushed forward, embracing Chinwe as though afraid she would vanish again. Though shaken, Chinwe felt a surge of gratitude and love. She forgave her family, but also reminded them gently that acceptance is what she had needed all along. With the moonlight illuminating the clearing around Baba Yetunde's humble hut, Chinwe knelt on shaky legs, still adjusting to the loss of her leopard form. As her parents, Mama Adarong and Baba Adigok, hugged her, villagers who had gathered slowly lowered their sticks and lanterns. Instead of cheers of relief, an uneasy silence stretched across the crowd. Some were in awe of the elders' power, while others still trembled with apprehension. Baba Yetunde studied Chinwe intently. "You're free of the leopard's skin," he murmured, stroking the last traces of spotted fur on her arm, "but part of the spirit that touched you may linger. You must not forget this experience. Learn from it. Use it wisely." Chinwe nodded, still overwhelmed. Although she was overjoyed to be human again, she felt something deep within her, an echo of the leopard's grace, the acute senses, and the raw courage that had pulsed through her veins. Once the immediate shock passed, the villagers began to whisper among themselves. A few neighbors approached to offer Chinwe water and a cloth to cover her shoulders. Others hung back, eyeing her with uncertainty. Rumors crackled across the clearing. Could she still be dangerous? What if the spell returns? Is she truly our Chinwe? Mama Adarong and Baba Adigok looked worriedly at the crowd. They had finally regained their daughter, but they could sense the atmosphere was still thick with fear and unanswered questions. Trying to stand, Chinwe stumbled. Mama Adarong caught her before she fell. There was a newfound tenderness in her mother's touch, an empathy that had been missing before. "My child," Mama Adarong whispered, her voice trembling, "we won't abandon you again." Despite her mother's reassurance, Chinwe felt a knot of unease tighten in her chest. She feared that once the night's excitement died down, old suspicions would rekindle. She was home, but would people ever treat her the same? Later that night, Chinwe, her parents, and a handful of sympathetic neighbors guided her back to their small, clay-walled hut. The straw roof rustled with a gentle breeze, and the familiar smells of cooking fires and farmland embraced her like a long-lost friend. The lantern in the main room revealed a space filled with simple wooden stools, dried herbs hanging from the rafters, and family trinkets spread across a low table. Her siblings, who had stayed behind when the crowd ran to Baba Yetunde, rushed toward Chinwe in a burst of relief. They hugged her, giggling and crying at the same time, as though making up for all the moments they had failed to show they cared. Even so, Chinwe noticed a flicker of worry in their eyes. How much had she changed? That night, Chinwe slept on a woven mat beside her sister. Although her body had returned to normal, her dreams were wild and vivid. In these visions, she ran on all fours through moonlit forest, feeling branches scratch against her fur. At one point, she saw the old woman who had cursed her standing beneath a baobab tree, beckoning her closer. Chinwe reached out, but the dream dissolved into darkness. She awoke with a jolt, sweat beading her forehead, the smell of damp earth lingering in her nostrils. The faint glow of morning painted the horizon outside the small window. She wondered if the nightmares were warning her of something yet to come. Meanwhile, Ilewuro bustled at the break of dawn. Word of Chinwe's return spread from the communal well to the market stalls, from the fields of yam and cassava to the elders' meeting circle. People whispered about her as they pounded grain or fetched water. Some suggested that the curse might yet linger, waiting to strike again. A few predicted that if Chinwe and her family didn't perform special rituals, the spirits would turn their wrath on the entire village. Determined to protect Chinwe, Mama Adorank forbade her daughter from venturing out alone. But day by day, Chinwe felt an odd restlessness. Part of her yearned to explore the village paths again, to greet the sunrise with that newfound sense of freedom she'd felt while living as a leopard. Yet she couldn't forget how the villagers had reacted to her before, and how some continued to eye her with mistrust. On the third morning, Chinwe woke to find a small clay pot outside their front door, tied with palm fronds. A handwritten note tucked under the lid bore a single line. "Return to me when you are ready to walk between two words." Intrigued, she brought the pot inside. Its contents smelled of herbs and earth, reminiscent of Baba Yetunde's hut. She guessed this was a subtle way of inviting her back for guidance, perhaps to help her reconcile the leopard's lingering presence in her soul. Though she was apprehensive, Chinwe was also curious. What did it mean to walk between two worlds? Could she truly harness the best of both her human nature and the fierce spirit she had awakened? She knew only one thing for certain: her journey was far from over. Even as villagers argued about her fate, some urging the village chief to banish her, others insisting she be granted a fresh start, Chinwe felt torn. She loved her home, but she could sense a distance forming between herself and the world she once knew. Each day, she felt a subtle pull to the ancient baobab tree, the same place where her transformation began. Sometimes she'd swear she heard a voice on the wind, whispering her name at dusk. Was it the old woman who cursed her, or were the spirits calling her to discover her destiny? Chinwe felt a gentle breeze against her face as she stood by the ancient baobab tree, the very spot where her transformation began. The sun was setting over Ilewuro, bathing the dusty paths and mud huts in a warm, golden light. Behind her, the village stirred in its usual evening rhythm. Mothers called their children in from play, and fathers wrapped up work in the fields. But tonight, there was also a quiet sense of anticipation. After all that had happened, her curse, the time she spent as a leopard, and the uncertainties that followed, Chinwe was about to make a choice that would change her life forever. A hush fell over the clearing as Baba Yetunde approached, his walking stick tapping gently on the hard-packed earth. He nodded solemnly to Chinwe, then placed a pouch of herbs at the foot of the tree. "It is time," he said, voice low. "No matter what your decision is, follow the call of your heart, my child." Chinwe exhaled, steadying her nerves. For days, she had been torn between leaving the village to escape suspicion or staying to rebuild the fragile trust with her family and neighbors. Each time she remembered the thrill of bounding through the forest at night, quick, alert, and powerful as a leopard, her heart ached for that untamed freedom. But her love for her parents and siblings tugged her in the opposite direction, urging her to stay. Bracing herself, she touched the rough bark of the baobab tree. Her vision blurred for a moment as she recalled the night she first met the mysterious old woman, the night she was cursed. Slowly, she whispered a plea to the spirits, "Help me find peace in who I am." As if in answer, Mama Adarang and Baba Adigok emerged from a narrow path through the tall grass, breathless from hurrying. They reached Chinwe, tears shining in their eyes. They had sensed that she might make an irreversible decision tonight and did not want her to do so without knowing how much they truly loved her. "My daughter," Mama Adarang began, voice trembling. "We haven't always understood you, but we never stopped loving you. We beg you, stay with us. Help us learn who you truly are." Baba Adigok nodded, swallowing hard. "We judged too quickly. We forgot that our customs should not stifle a child's soul. Can you forgive us, Chinwe?" Softly, Chinwe placed her hands on theirs. "I do forgive you," she said, letting the warmth of the moment chase away lingering hurt. "Let us build a new path together." At Baba Yetunde's direction, villagers began to gather, forming a cautious but curious circle around the baobab tree. Children clung to their mothers' legs, peering wide-eyed at Chinwe. Some of the elders who had once discussed banishment now stood with folded arms, remorse brimming in their eyes. Baba Yetunde sprinkled his herbal mixture around the base of the tree and chanted a prayer in a low, resonant voice. The air seemed to hum with a gentle energy, as if acknowledging the renewal unfolding before their eyes. Turning to Chinwe, the elder spoke for all to hear. "Today, we honor the courage of a daughter who faced a curse. But we also honor the power of understanding and acceptance that can break any spell. May we learn from her journey." Chinwe felt her heart lighten, as though a heavy weight had been lifted. A faint memory of her leopard self stirred inside her, reminding her of both the freedom and the loneliness she had experienced. From now on, she would walk between those words, guided by compassion rather than fear. When the ceremony concluded, villagers who had once whispered behind Chinwe's back approached to offer their apologies. A few gave small gifts, hand-carved beads, fresh produce, and home-baked bread. Families who had been suspicious greeted her with words of respect. Even the children, who used to stare at her in fear, seemed relieved to see the warm and human sparkle in her eyes once more. Mama Adarang and Baba Adigok vowed never again to let fear or gossip cloud their love for their daughter. With her parents by her side, Chinwe smiled, her heart brimming with hope. Although the path ahead would not be without obstacles, she was no longer alone. Her leopard spirit had taught her resilience and self-confidence. Now, back in the embrace of her people, she would show Ilewuro that unity was possible even when differences set them apart. Moral lesson. Chinwe's journey reminds us that fear and misunderstanding can create deep wounds, but love and acceptance hold the power to heal them. Each of us carries unique talents, dreams, and perspectives. When we judge too quickly or cling blindly to rigid expectations, we risk isolating those we should cherish the most. However, when we come together with open hearts, we can learn from one another's experiences and break any curse, whether literal or born from prejudice. Always remember, true strength arises from empathy, forgiveness, and the courage to embrace our differences. Thank you so much for joining us on this remarkable journey of the daughter who turned into a leopard. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and helps keep the spirit of African storytelling alive for generations to come. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Who was your favorite character? What did you learn from the story? Until next time, remember, listen to each other's hearts, and never underestimate the power of true acceptance.